Right, so I've chosen all of my instruments, and then there's the question of, do I amplify them or not? Now, personally, I don't think that there's any point in practicing an instrument or considering an instrument to take to a protest that you can't amplify, or that you can't unamplify, if you know what I mean. Like, I wouldn't take an electric guitar personally, some people do, but because that doesn't work unamplified. So one of the things that you may have noticed about the instruments I've chosen, the guitar-like ones, is that I've gone for nylon string guitars. Why would you do that? They don't stay in tune as well, nylon strings. Steel strings are much more reliable. So why would I choose that? Well, I don't mind tuning up a lot, actually. That's one point. I don't mind tuning up a lot, and there's other advantages that you kind of get with the nylon strings. The first one is I find it a lot easier to play nylon strings when it's cold. So here I am in the UK, and I've done demos all year round, and I don't mind playing with my fingers when it's cold. It doesn't hurt, doesn't feel like putting my left hand on cheese wire, and I don't catch myself on my right hand, and when your hands are cold that feels really difficult. So nylon strings are great. I actually think, personally, I think you can push them a lot louder. That's up for debate. Anyway, the other thing that's really good is that K and A, there's this really, really nice pickup. There it is. And it's only for nylon strings, and you can fit it just like that, and it's like £40. So that's, depending on how you view money, a comparatively very, very, very cheap way of amplifying your instrument. Great. I also have, with this one, you can see there's a second amplification system just because I put it in and never took it out. So you can get these little stick-on pickups. They're little round pickups. They're loads of different brands. They're all pretty much the same. They're about £7 online, and they basically, you stick them on the inside of the guitar or the instrument so that you can't see it. It's stuck in there, and then I've extensively taped on the bit of it that kind of comes out into a wire and a plug. So then you can use that with any guitar lead. So that doesn't sound as good. It just doesn't. It doesn't sound as good. And if you're on a budget, get that. And if you're not, get the K&A, because that's much better. And that's worked really well. No EQ required, no setup really. It just works great. Because that's the other thing. Oftentimes when someone else is providing the amplification, you just have to plug in straight away and play. Bring your own lead. Great. So. Next, other things that are amplified, and they're all things that go up against the microphone, you know, so all of those you put up against the microphone. Great, no problem. What I should say about microphones, so here's a microphone, obviously it's not plugged in at the moment, but what I should say about it is that microphones lose volume very quickly. They become more and more deaf the further away you get from them. And that's for good reason, because you really want a microphone that just hears the person who's using it, not, you know, all the background noise. So live microphones are like that. Dynamic microphones is the professional type term, or industry type term. So controversial, but when I'm on a demo, I touch the mic with my face. I do that, and I try and get an angle so I don't get lots of breath noise. But that gives me maximum loudness. If you're not comfortable doing that, just as close as you can possibly get, because we're often working with quite limited sound systems. And using this method, I was able to sing with 2,000 people at one demo, call and response, and they could hear me to respond. Just using a busking amp that's normally just meant for playing in the street, I was able to do that. So that's really important. If you're worried about hygiene and it's not your microphone, bring yourself a sock. Doesn't really affect it doesn't really affect how loud the microphone is. It doesn't really dampen it very much. But bring yourself a sock, your own sock, so that you can solve that hygiene problem, and that is fine. Or bring your own microphone. Sometimes I do that because I've got a microphone that I know is going to work well, but sometimes there's not really time to switch the microphones over. So those are my tips on amplification.